Testing 1 2 1 2. Check, check, check. Hello, everybody. Hello. Right now, 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 now. That sounded good. That's good. We're good. Greetings, Imhotep. Peace and blessings, all that good stuff today, man. All that good stuff today. And welcome to the first episode of what I would call The World According to Ausar. Though I've done several shows similar to this. It's the first one with this title, so that's how we're running it, right? Get comfortable. Get comfortable. We're going to share some thoughts today. This show today, we're going to cover a few different topics here. One of the topics we're going to cover is behavior. The other would be, are you a hemnetcher? Are you a priest, right? Another thing we'll be talking about today is a police shooting that happened in Sacramento, California, a few days ago, I want to say. And then, of course, one of the biggest topics of discussion is the U.S.-Ghana Treaty, the United States and Ghana Treaty, and we need to cover all those things today. Greetings, I'm your host, Ausar Ka. As always, as you always see me, you know, Uncle Josh and life, strength, and health, all those good things. But it's a wild world out here, people. Let me tell you right now. The first topic we're going to touch on today is there was a discussion on a show that a lot of African Americans tend to watch in the States and even out of the country called Sa-Neter or Sa-Neter. And there was an incident with a brother named Jabari Osaze and another brother named Lex, Zion Lex, if you will. What happens during this incident is really disturbing, which is what made me bring it up, right? Because you have Zion Lex, who's from the Hebrew community, if you will, and you have Jabari Osaze, who is from the Hekinetcher or the Shimsu Haru or the Shimsu Ausar, or he's basically a Remech lifestylist, right? And he's a priest from the Babu Heru temple. I think they call they have a shrine. It's called, I think, the House of Ma'at, something of that nature, right? Anyway, Jabari is having a discussion with Zion Lex. These two brothers have debated in the past before. It seemed cordial. It seemed very nonchalant. No, harsh feelings. We're having a discussion about certain topics and issues. During the course of this particular discussion, Zion Lex from the Hebrew faction becomes very ill-tempered. And remind you, he's in Jabari's house. And basically the brother is telling him, there's a personal problem now. He felt he was slighted. I won't be disrespected on any level. What part don't you understand about that? A direct quote, things of this nature. Young boy stuff, really, right? In retrospect, these are activities that are of an intellectual level, having a discussion based on spirituality, etc., etc. So when you get to the point where you can no longer handle the discussion, you probably shouldn't invite yourself to the discussions, because that's what they are. They're discussions, right? And then the bad part about this is two things, right? A couple things, right? Number one, you're in Jabari's house. Mind you, his wife has already come downstairs and said, hey, it's running late. Can we, kill the noise, And then you're on a live public syndication broadcast around the world, basically, on YouTube. And you try to start a fist fight. Jabari is a guy who's very courteous, very calm, very priestly in nature. I must give him his credit there. Better mannered than probably me in that situation, because if you disrespect me in my house, we're gonna have a personal problem. We're gonna get physical, right? If you go there, it's one thing to have a discussion. It's another thing when you're in my face, telling me if it's not for my wife being upstairs, something may happen, et cetera, or any of that extracurricular stuff, right? So Jabari kind of lets it slide. But when you look at the disrespect on this level, Jabari has invited Lex to Egypt. I'm not sure if he went with him or not, but he offered to make sure he was paid for, make sure he was covered, at least the plane fare for the trip. He's offered to, have the discussions with him. They did the debate together. He's courteous to this guy, right? He's invited him into his home. And now you in his home acting like you want a fist fight and talking about if your wife wasn't upstairs, et cetera, et cetera. This type of behavior is not warranted. And I'm a guy who pushed for Zion Lex to be on the platform again when he had issues of this nature come up with SETI. Yeah, the issue with Sarasut and SETI, stood up on SETI. I'm not sure what happened after the camera stopped rolling, but, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you can't control your behavior during the discussion, then you can't discuss these ideas on an intellectual level, period. So maybe people like his material, whatever the case, but when it comes to this high-level discussion, we cannot have this type of situation happen. Cannot, and this is like the third time, right? You've threatened violence or acted violently or acted disrespectfully in someone's house, let alone your brother. We can't have that. We have to ban such behavior from the community when it's taking place. As simple as that. As simple as that. And I'm someone, like I said, when it first happened, I was like, let him back on the platform. What do you, come on, man. But now you see it again. You see it again. And you see it in a fashion where it's like, okay, that could have been dangerous, right? That could have been dangerous. If you in my house, you understand, I got tools, right? We got real tools, right? Let me tell you something, B. If you in my house and you, right, you understand? No one should have to be, this shouldn't have to come out, right? The sword is here, right? The sword is the tongue. It's the double-edged sword. And then when it starts to cut your own neck, meaning your information is not, it's not doing what you want it to do for you, then maybe you need to step away from the paradigm that you're pushing forth. It's not working. Leave it alone. Step down. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic. That's all I want to really squander on that. Zion Lex, more power to you, brother. Hopefully you can get your mind right. Hopefully you can step your game up, concerning behavior when it comes to these types of discussions. And Brother Jabari, doing an excellent job. Hopefully, there's no issues for you in the future concerning a situation like that. You don't need that in your household, right? You don't need that type of trouble. So if you don't know the people who are coming in your house, they just going off the strength of we know Sonetta, do more research. You can't have no weirdos in your house, period. But anyway, moving on. Next topic. Let's talk about being a Ramech priest. How you know, how you don't know, right? Me, I'm a Hemnecha, right? I'm a Hemka. I'm a Winwet Wab, which is basically an astronomer, right? Or an astrologer, the original term before astronomer was separated from astrology. Let me be clear. I'm not just, I don't just proclaim that. Like, I took some classes, so I know some things about astronomy, right? One of my students in martial arts is an astronomer, went to college for it, right? So we have the pedigree. But a lot of people were just hopping up and claiming these titles, right? So let me be clear. If you're an ancient Winwet Wab and you're doing your practice now, some of the studies that you have to go through, right? You see this book here? Most people can't afford this book, right? But this is a college type book. Deacons, planets, constellations, etc. Otto Neugebauer, Richard A. Parker, right? There's a set of these. There's a set of these. Do you understand? There's study that you must do in order to get busy. In order to get busy. Do you understand? If I'm telling you about the sky and I'm going through these texts to get busy, it's because I know the sky. Right? I'm not just speaking on things I don't know. You have to have the pedigree. You have to have the pedigree, right? You have to, if I show you an ancient Ramet star clock and I ask you how it functions, or what's the difference between that clock and the decanal clock, and you don't have an answer, or you don't know the first, how are you claiming to be a Hemnetcha? How are you claiming to be a Winwet Wab? Don't be fooled by these slide artists, man. Real talk. You have to, if you're not schooled in these subjects, you understand me? You're not schooled in these aspects and fields. Let me roll one out, right? Okay. These are pictures of primaries, right? Talking how to use the primary resource. Now, we're going beyond the fact that it's a primary here. How do you use the primary resource? Let me get a fold one out. Let me get one that we can fold out here. You understand? You understand? If I start asking you about the body of Newt, can you tell me anything about the body of Newt? This is more than YouTube scholarship, right? People will try to pretend like they can provide you a service. Where's your tools at? Where's your pedigree at? You know what this is? You know what I'm not even going to say the name. I'm not even going to say the name. You should know what these tools are. Priest. Whatever type of priest you claim to be, right? I've said this before. Stop fronting like you're an Empu priest, which is not even the real term for it. If you haven't gone to mortician school. If you don't know, stop fronting. The people will find out if one of us puts you on blast. Stop pretending. Stop it. Don't be fooled by these scam artists. If they don't have the pedigree, simply don't learn from them. Do not engage in that type of banter with them, because what happens is you start to have good knowledge and faulty knowledge. The faulty knowledge, you don't know if it's faulty or not until somebody puts you on the spot concerning it. And then you don't have the answers, do you? I say this all the time. You hear me say this all the time. If you don't have the answers, you got a problem. You got a problem. And it's because you're dealing with people who are scam artists, right? Scam artists. Scam artists, straight up and down. Much love, fam. 333D3D worldwide. My brother Farouk, my brother Jador. To be like me, to be honest, go read. Then after you read, go put it into, go do it. Go do it. If you can't do it, it's useless in your life, right? It's not usable, right? Can't use it, it's no good. Let's move on. Let's move on, right? Hemnetcha, right? Make sure that if they claim the title, they know what they're doing. Most of these guys have talked to you about Egypt, Only one of these guys is taking you through the book of coming forth by day. Only one of these guys is taking you through the pyramid text. Only one of these guys is taking you through the coffin text, etc., right? Patience is important, yes. These are the things you need to be able to do. If you cannot do these things, sit back and study more. Sit back and study more. Don't just run to a chat in order to gain information to go do battle. That's the last thing we want you to do, right? That's the very last thing that we're doing this for. Now, let's move further, right? Let's talk about the cops killing. Shout out to Saber Reggie, absolutely. When you talk about the cop killings, there's a recent one that I had posted on Facebook, and they killed the young brother, and it was very sad. He's in his backyard. He has a cell phone, and the cops run up on him and shoot him in the back 8 times, but they shot 22 times, and they kill him in his own backyard. And he's got a cell phone. Now, the bad thing about this is twofold, right? Number one, these cops are probably going to get fired at best. Number two, a family has lost a child, right? The universe has lost a soul, at least in the physical form that we knew him as. So now we're dealing with a couple things concerning the family. One, his brother is giving speeches right now, but his brother is either not in his right mind. If y'all seen some of the speeches, the brother's kind of zany right now, all over the place. It could be because he's distraught about losing his brother. It could be because he's mentally impaired a little bit. But one thing that they should do is stop him from doing interviews, because he's hurting the case. You know what I'm saying? He's not really sound. I'd like to hear more from the parents. The parents are very important in this situation, and we'd like to hear more from the parents. As simple as that, because his sibling is not doing a good job. Not doing a good job. If you're emotional, you're not always the one to handle the situation, right? We just talked about behavior with Brother Zion. You may not be the Hebrew to get it done. You're too violent for the situation. Now, this brother's brother, who, you know, was just slain in the streets, murdered by the police department, he needs a speaker. He needs someone to vocalize for him with the appropriate tone, the appropriate mannerisms, so that his voice can be heard from the other side right now. So hopefully the family gets that together. Secondly, what should we do about officers who gun us down? Once they're fired, they have a pension that they receive, but they don't really have protection that they receive unless they go into, you know, the witness protection program. I'm not sure that you just getting fired from that job and then receiving some $1 million or something in a fund and a pension or a GoFundMe is appropriate. What should we do with officers like that? Remember what I said. If you come into my house and you start tripping, you understand me? So when you gun down one of our babies in the street and you don't get some type of death penalty, or you don't get some type of 20-year sentence in prison, something has to be done. Bigger than you getting fired. That's the easiest part. You losing that job. You are obviously not competent enough to do it. Something else has to occur for an officer who guns down your loved ones, guns down innocent children in the street, black, white, what, I don't care. Something has to come. Something has to come. And this has been happening for years. When I was younger in the 90s, if you gun one of us down, you better be careful. You better be careful. You know what it is. This is your generation, young youth. Be careful in the streets and don't let injustice happen to you as a group, as a unit. I see the kids standing together to give the speech about gun control. Beautiful. Awesome. Now we've got to do it about police control, or it won't stick. It won't fit. If it doesn't fit, Johnny Cochran told you, you must quit. Meaning, if you're an officer who can't police other cultures, then it's time for us to start selecting and handpicking the cops, or presenting a bill through our own caucuses or through the caucuses that exist to start to get the police that can actually police our neighborhoods appropriately. Period. Period. If we don't get this in place, it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of really, really bad summers. It's going to be some cold summers. You understand? Real talk. Real talk. And that doesn't mean give up your gun. That means whoever has a gun needs to be monitored. Period. And them coming into your house with guns and you not having one to defend yourself, that's out. That's out. So like I said, while the kids are talking gun control, you know, remember, a teacher just shot a child on accident who was supposed to be one of those gun wielders that knew what to do with the gun in a classroom. In a classroom. So we need to be very careful, very selective about the language, about the appropriation of who has a gun, who doesn't, right? And if they have guns, we need to be able to wield ours. I remember Tupac beat his case when he had to shoot both the cops. You know, they tried to kill him. He had to shoot both the cops. Remember that? So don't be confused about what's going on. Don't be misled about what's happening right now. Moving on further, right? Let's go to Ghana. Let's go to the mother country real quick. Ghana, USA military cooperation to agree to not to agree. They have signed paperwork, right? President Akufo-Addo has signed paperwork to allow the military presence to be established in Ghanaian territory. That means a couple things. Number one, things like big game hunting may be open in Ghana, as you just saw happened in Zimbabwe, as soon as they ousted the brother over there. Not good for the animals, not good for the locale, really not good for the government, if you ask me. The amount that was spent, let me put this in perspective, right? The amount that's spent is about 20 million for training for the Ghanaian military, for weaponry for the Ghanaian military, and a location that the USA can keep patrol over in that area. 20 million is what you pay a quarterback. And that price is starting to go up. A lot of quarterbacks are starting to make 25 to 30 million. So you basically, the people in Ghana are in an uproar, right? They have a problem with this, a lot of them. Some are okay. Most of them are having a fit. And thousands of Ghanaians protested in the capital, right? So when you look at them, they feel like the president just sold the country for $20 million. And Ghana's worth way more than $20 million. right? But maybe Ado sees it as a way to get out of his situation. But you don't sell a whole country just because you want out of your situation. You understand? So right now it's very standoff. It's very standoffish, and they're calling it colonialism. Basically, they're saying this is modern day colonialism. Um, we can learn a lot from what just happened in East Africa, right? East Africa. Um, uh, I can't even think of the country. It's over there by Zimbabwe and all, or by Tanzania and all that. Uh, just signed a treaty with I believe it was England or France, and they're experiencing a lot of colonialism right now. It's not working out the way that they thought it would work out. But to be fair, I believe it's Djibouti. Djibouti, if I'm not mistaken. There's U.S. drones over there. There's naval bases over there. There's uh, all types of stuff just kind of overseeing what's happening, right? You got Somalia and Turkey have a similar situation, and there's a military base in Somalia, which still doesn't stop threatening Arab presence from coming over there and being rough to the people of Somalia. So what are you gaining when you do something of this nature? When you do a treaty of this nature? Ghana should be for the Ghanaians, in my opinion, right? If you're going to do business, you didn't come over to ask any of your African brothers who left the ports years ago, right? You didn't come ask us to do business. You didn't put anything out in writing concerning a business treaty or what we could do, right? There's a billionaire we know here worth $2 billion. Only person of African descent that's richer than him in the States is Oprah. It's our brother Ryan right here in Colorado. You know what I'm saying? So when you do something of that nature, Ghana, it's almost a letdown to a degree. And I'm living in the United States. That's not a knock on the United States. That's not a knock on the country itself. That's a knock on who's running the country and some of their political endeavors that have gone awry in Africa, right? We can point to the owner of the 700 Club, Pat, and see that he's one of the biggest causes for Blood Diamond, right? So be careful when you sign treaties, whether it could have been China doing the same thing. We need you to be more cognitive of what you do. And I know the people protested, but what kind of checks and balances do you have in place for your president, Ghana? You understand? You see, Trump is looking like a failure over here because when he does certain things, it can be vetoed. He could be impeached. We don't know. One thing we weren't standing for was when he called it a whole country, right? When he disrespected Africa, he had problems over here on this side. We was out there marching. He was like, yo, don't come to the White House, yo. Go in your mouth today, So we had a problem with that. You got to have the same problem. You got thousands, but that's a country of millions, Ghana is. We only seen thousands in protests. You want to stop what's happening, what Kwame Nkrumah called neo-colonialism, we got to see a bigger stance than taking 20 million. You could have sent a child over here to be a quarterback or a basketball player and got more than that, right? You basically pushing your country away for a very cheap price and little to no effort on the protesters, aside from holding up a sign. We got to think better. We got to be better, African people across the globe right now. We got to be much better than that. But that's all I have for today. It's the world according to your brother Ausar. We'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. Probably next Sunday or Saturday. We'll make it happen. Um, Remember who you are. Be in the SAR, as I always say. Um, Treat each other well. Life, strength, and health. And be careful out there, man. Cops got burners. People coming in your house acting disgruntled. What is that? And stop selling your soul for such a meager price. And don't get caught up by a spin doctor claiming to be a him netcher if they don't have the pedigree. Uncle Jocelyn.